The divines may be gone, but their presence will always be felt, their guidance a blessing, and their sacrifice an example for us all. Previously, we discussed the Ventara, immense and cosmic beings often associated with the more chaotic and malevolent aspects of reality and mortals. And today we shall discuss their sacred and orderly counterparts, the Isran, or simply the Divines. The Divines, like the Ventara, were created when the forces of order and chaos coalesced into the physical manifestations of various aspects that hold reality together. At first, these gods would wander the endless expanses, and in time even they grew discontent with the emptiness of it all. That was until they stumbled upon a singular world that showed signs of mortal, fragile life. And from this discovery they would call it Iskara, the first spark. For centuries, the Isran would observe the fledgling mortals develop and expand, but many feared directly interacting with them, cautious as to what their influence might lead to. In secret, some of the Isran would subtly guide those that would heed their omens and signs. However, after the Drorava, the first and most powerful among all dragonkin, emerged following the Silent Night and enslaved the known world for centuries, it became clear that the intervention was necessary to prevent the world from falling into complete disarray. And so the first Isran to truly break the silence was Saren, who chose a young Anravari man as his champion to lead a revolt against the dragons. Throughout this revolution, more of the Isran revealed themselves, further turning the tides in the war. Known as the first descendant, this young man of the name Tarek Varro would triumph over the dragons and usher in Iskara's golden age and the formation of the greatest empire in history, one that spread across much of the known world. From then on, the Divines became an integral part of everyday life, and it was with their help that mortal kind reached their pinnacle. But like all things, this utopia was brought to ruin when the Ventara and their legions of demons pierced the veil and brought untold devastation. Millions were slaughtered, enslaved, and subjugated in the name of these dark lords, and only through the combined efforts of the Divines, their ascendant warriors, and the remaining survivors were the Ventara driven back, but not without great loss. In the aftermath, the Divines are said to have vanished and were never heard from again. But some whisper of the gods' return and the danger their reemergence precipitates. There are dozens of recognized divines from among the various races and cultures throughout Iskara, but their interpretations and the pantheons in which they belong to vary. And unfortunately, due to their absence, many records, depictions, and stories of the Isran have been lost to time. Among the Isran, most showed particular favorship to one among the various Iskaran species, while others sought to aid them all. So to start, we'll cover the more widely worshipped deities, and then address those that focus their attention. Lord of the Arcane, master of mystical arts, and curator of spells, Magni is the god of magic, alchemy, scholarship, and knowledge. As one might expect, Magni is often worshipped by mages, scholars, and any who wish to better understand the world. Given his spheres of influence, he has become the patron deity of the Circle of Arcanum, a guild dedicated to all things arcane in nature. His artifact, a coveted item of the Circle, is simply known as the Tome of Magni, and within are various spells most mages could only dream of properly casting, which is why the Circle goes to great lengths to ensure only those with adequate skill are permitted to even read it. And although no one has set foot in Magni's realm, many speculate that it is a place radiating with pure arcana, the energy and source of magic. The Dreamweaver, Master of Fate, and Messenger of New Dawns, Onium is the Isran of dreams, hope, and time. Compared to the other Isran, Onium is one of the lesser known or documented deities, though after his disappearance along with his kin, many expected Baal, god of nightmares, to grow immensely in power. However, no noticeable change in the dreams of mortals was recorded, spawning numerous theories as to the true nature of dreams. The artifact belonging to Onium is a Lightbringer, a powerful staff said to be capable of shining as bright as any star. In similar legends, the staff is said to be particularly useful when traversing the darkness of the void and dealing with its unwelcoming denizens. Given the unexpected stability of dreams following the incursion, many suspect that either Onium's realm is somehow detached from the source of dreams, or he is alive and actively working to maintain that stability. But the latter begs the question, if Onium is alive, why does he not make himself known once again? The Golden Lady and the Divine Dealer, Mora is the goddess of commerce, trade, currency, and labor. Worshipped by those of all walks of life, followers of Mora believe that purpose and success can be found through earnest work and just profits, and those that seek to exploit others for financial gain are traitor to their goddess's ideals. Unfortunately, such ideals have wavered greatly in Mora's absence. Mora has no known artifacts, which many believe to be a purposeful choice by Mora to avoid getting any one mortal an unfair advantage. And the only remaining depiction of Mora's realm is a worn painting done by an unnamed artist. In it, one can see vast mountain ranges with numerous volcanoes and golden lava streams weaving throughout them, though the validity of the painting has come into question on numerous occasions. The great judge and oath-keeper, Tor is the god of justice, law, nobility, and oaths. The patron deity of lawkeepers, judges, guardsmen, and all those that seek to uphold order, Tor is seen as a keystone deity in providing stability to Iskara as early civilizations truly began to develop. It is in his teachings that led to the formation of the Iron Wolves, a mercenary band turned guild of adventurers, protectors, and aspiring heroes. Tor's artifact is the Adjudicator, a great sword of immense power which is said to be only wielded by those with a just heart. Tor's realm is unknown, though many suspect it as an idyllic place of marvelous structures and orderly design. The Divine Mother, Lady of Love, and Bringer of New Beginnings, Amarith is the goddess of love, fertility, and freedom. Prayed to by those seeking to start a family, keep lasting relationships, or looking for a new start, Amarith teaches compassion, sympathy, and open-mindedness. Amarith has one known artifact, the Chainbreaker, a two-handed mace said to be as light as a feather but hit with the ferocity of a lightning strike. From recently discovered records, Amarith's realm is known to be a verdant plain with vast rolling hills, blossoming gardens, and floating spires that hum with a comforting tune. Maiden of Jubilee and the Merrymaker, Cythalia is the goddess of festivities, celebrations, and pleasure. As one might expect, Cythalia's worship comes and goes with the seasons, as most only pray to her prior to any large events, coming-of-age ceremonies, or large gatherings. However, over the centuries, Cythalia has fallen out of favor given her domain of pleasure, which many fear to be too close in similarity to that of the Ventara Selene. There are some rumors that speak of an artifact created by Cythalia, but its design and purpose remain a mystery. Cythalia's realm is said to be a realm in which the golden hour is eternal and spiraling towers weave in impossible ways, though little else is known. The following Isran are now going to be those that dedicated much of their time to specific lineages who forever changed their evolution, cultures, and beliefs. The Wings of Order, the Great Unifier, and the Battle Master, Saren is the god of war, honor, unity, and strategy. Saren took an interest in the early Honorvari tribes and taught them the ways of war and strategic battle, which served them well during and after the revolt against the dragons. With the fall of the dragons and the emergence of the First Empire, led by Tarek Varro, Saren bestowed the Honorvari people with divine markings that persist to this day, and from that day forward, they would be known as the Sereni. Generally, Saren in other pantheons holds similar spheres of influence. However, to the elves of the Vidithari Dominion, they see him as a god of brutality and conquest. His artifact is the Radiance, a magnificent spear said to be capable of felling even the mightiest of gods. And as one might expect, many have sought out this powerful weapon, but none have succeeded in locating it. Saren's realm is known as the Honor Sanctuary, and legends speak of his plane as a pristine paradise of flowing rivers, titanic mountains, rushing waterfalls, and rolling grasslands for those who lived a principled life. Dotting the verdant lands are exquisite marble structures and grand libraries filled to the brim with knowledge far exceeding what any mortal could fathom. Old Papa and He Who Waits, Suresh is the god of swordsmanship, patience, and tradition. Mostly associated with the Ankari peoples, Suresh can be seen in several pantheons spanning the known world, with most interpreting the god as the embodiment of duels, war, and resolve. However, the Sarkosh, who have crossed blades with the Ankari on numerous occasions, see him as the god of cruelty and destruction. There's only one known artifact associated with Suresh, known as the Everblades. A pair of Khopesh is said to be so sharp that in the right hands, the blade could cut through reality itself. The realm of the god of patience is Rostamir, a desert realm in which the sky is flooded by stars and the sun never rises. And at its center lies a vast city made of sandstone, where the streams of sand flow upwards and strange creatures roam the dunes. Mother of War, One Eye, and the Fireheart, Vara is the patron deity of the Avar, and her domains are that of strength, controlled rage, and brutality. Considered a bit of an oddity among the Isran given her spheres of influence, Vara is typically depicted in a more negative light outside of Avar territories. But Avar legends would argue that Vara only sought to strengthen the peoples of Iskara, so that they would stand ready to combat the many dangers of reality, and only the Avar would listen. Our artifacts include the Winter's Might and the Tempered Fury. The Might is a warhammer capable of producing shockwaves of jagged ice with every strike, and the Fury is a pair of gauntlets that drastically enhance the wearer's strength. Vara's realm in Avar legends is said to be a daunting place in which one must pass numerous tests before they may enter the Champion's Hall, where one may feast, duel, and drink for eternity. And that concludes the first look of the Iskara of Iskara. Join me for the next part where we will continue to discuss another selection of the sacred and honor-bound. As the ages pass, I, along with my colleagues, often wonder how many of the divines have been forgotten to time, and if, much like the Ventara, if there are any of those that we have never encountered, and if so, that certainly begs the question, in our greatest time of need, why do they all remain silent? Today we shall continue to explore the various Isran that dedicated much of their time towards guiding and aiding a particular species and culture of Iskara, and covering some of the information we have gathered from records and stories of old. Sunborn, the mother of stars and constellations, and the ever-bright, Solaria is the goddess of stars, light, and the day. The chief deity for the Solvathar, or Sun Elves, Solaria varies little in her domains across the multiple pantheons that exist, though some attribute to her the aspects of life and growth. One of the three deities referred to as the Celestial Sisters, which includes Solaria, Ioun, and Callista, most see Solaria as the matriarch of the three, though the Moon Elves would quickly disagree with such claims. Solaria's artifacts include the Sun Dancer, the Star Heart, and the Ember Shards. The Sun Dancer is an elegant glaive that can summon beams of light to strike down upon a target. The Star Heart is a magic orb that can drastically enhance one's light-based spells. And lastly, the Ember Shards are a pair of daggers made of pure sunstone, and they can leave behind searing wounds. It is said that Solaria's realm, at least in elven myth, is believed to be a city that sits amidst the clouds, and above sits a white star with solar flares that constantly warp around it. The sister moons and ladies of moonlight, Ioun and Callista, are the twin deities of moons and the night. Primarily worshipped by the Lunvathar or Moon Elves, it is said that the followers of Ioun and Callista were hunted by followers of Solaria millennia ago, but most records of such events have vanished with time or have been purposely hidden or destroyed by the Vidithari Dominion. The artifacts associated with the twin goddesses are the Crescent Blades and the Moonlight's Grace. The blades are a dual-form weapon, as its base state, the crescent is a chakram that can be thrown, and in its secondary state, it can be split into two daggers. The blades are capable of cutting through most armors, and in its chakram form, once thrown, it will return to its wielder. The Grace is a cloak that can render the wearer completely invisible, making it a prized possession for any spy, assassin, or thief. Ioun and Callista are believed to be the only deities to share a domain and realm known as Lua. Their plane is a place bathed in moonlight with mountains and crystalline formations that twist and curl in unusual ways. The Earth Bone, Root Mother, and the Great Shaper, Elenar is a goddess of nature, druids, and ballads. In legend, it is said that Elenar was rather reclusive and uninterested in divine affairs, or mortals for that matter. But upon witnessing the religious persecutions at the hands of the followers of Solaria, Elenar took pity on the elves that migrated to the heavily forested lands of what would become Sylvanwood. Here, Elenar entered a pact with the elves, one that would aid in their survival and preserve the sanctity of the natural world, and thus the Silvathar, or Wood Elves, were born. The artifact associated with Elenar is the Green Song, a longbow that weaves together bark, bone, leather, and sinew, and it is said that its arrows, when striking a target, conjure roots that ensnare said target. In some Silvathar faiths, it is said that Elenar placed a door to her realm within the largest tree on Iskara, the Seralith Elenar, though that door has remained shut for millennia. Elenar's realm itself is said to be an infinite jungle where the trees reach above the clouds and their branches twist and curl like serpents. It is also believed that the creatures inhabiting the realm are made entirely of plant life, sustained by the powerful earthly magics that radiate throughout the plane. Lady of the Winter Owl, Mother of Fangs, and she who runs in the wilds, Artio is the goddess of winter, wildlife, and wind. In Felvithar legends, it is said that Artio was the first to reach out to the early elves that would become the Frost Elves, whereas Artio's bondmate, Felwyn, needed to be persuaded to take an interest. Artio, who saw potential in these early elves, showed them how to survive the frigid lands that they would call Norren, and it was through her teachings that the Felvathar would be born and equipped with the necessary skills and knowledge to thrive in their new home. Artio's artifact is the Winter's Crown, and it has served as a symbol of nobility and authority among the Snow Elves for centuries, though its divine enchantment has been lost to time and it remains the only artifact to be inactive, and what caused this inactivity is unknown. Artio's realm is one said to be a realm in which it is eternally winter and vast mountain ranges reach towards the aurora-filled skies. Father of beasts and the Ursine Lord, Felwyn is the god of endurance, protection, and preservation. A rather secluded god, Felwyn rarely interacted with his snow elf followers, though there were those that proved wise and strong enough that would serve as his priests. Though his priesthood has increased with his absence, but many would say its quality has greatly diminished. Alongside Artio, Felwyn is said to have served more as a protector or guardian to the emerging snow elf people, rather than a direct teacher. Felwyn's artifact is the Great Bear's Hide, and is said to be capable of allowing its wearer to shift forms into that of an abnormally large bear, with arcana-infused claws and teeth, mimicking but a small fraction of Felwyn's visage and strength. Felwyn's realm remains an unknown, though some suspect it is quite similar, if not shared, with that of Artio's. The Great Hunter, the Bloodied Arrow, and he who lurks, Taruk is the god of the hunt. A patron deity of the Arakiri, it is said that Taruk was the one to teach them the importance and skill of hunting, and how to pay respects to the world that provided for their means of life. And while Taruk is most often associated with the Arakiri, some scholars believe Taruk also took an interest in the early Wood Elves, who, as a result of their pact with Eleanor, needed to rely on hunting in order to survive, though the interpretations between these species greatly varies. His artifact is the Dread Bow, a longbow that can generate its own arrows, and the wielder can subtly guide fired arrows to travel in ways other arrows simply cannot. His realm is known simply as the Hunting Grounds, a heavily forested realm teeming with beasts any true hunter would relish in tracking and taking down. The Spirit Mother and the Giver, Shuri is the goddess of spirits, community, and charity. Most often associated with the Arakiri, particularly that of the Kemmerai tribe in modern times, in some myths it is said that Shuri was once the wife of Saren, but such legends have become less favorable as the Sereni and Arakiri relations in the east weakened and the general worship of deities lessened in the western lands of Nikova. Shuri's artifacts are the Staff of the Other Side and the Warder's Aegis. The staff is said to be capable of summoning an Alethi, angelic and orderly beings said to serve the respective Isran. However, the staff has been lost since the incursion, and many wonder if its enchantment would even work following the disappearance of the Divines. The Aegis is a shield of graceful design that can produce an Arcana ward which is capable of absorbing or redirecting most spells. In ancient Arakiri legends, it is believed that Shuri's realm is one where the ground is made of clouds and thousands of rivers and waterfalls flow throughout, and at its center sits a grand community center where it is said the ancestors and many others would gather. The Hammer Hand and Forge Father, Aladon is the god of forging, smithing, and craftsmanship. When among the Trinity, the primary faith of the Ostron people, Aladon is of great import to the Pale Giants. In Ostron myth, it is said that the Trinity each served a role in creating reality, with Aladon's responsibility being that of creating the World Forge and creating the physical aspects of reality and the beings that would inhabit it. Aladon's artifact is the World Hammer, a large warhammer capable of producing devastating shockwaves with every strike. Aladon's realm is fabled to be one of magnificent volcanoes that pump out lava that is used to fuel the greatest forges in any dimension, and it is within these forges that many suspect that most of the Divine's artifacts were created. The Painter, the Song in the Wind, and the Hand that Guides, Emerald is the goddess of arts, passion, music, and creativity. The second of the Ostron Trinity, it is said that Emerald was the one to provide Aladon with the imagination and rhythm necessary to forge reality. In Ostron culture, Emerald is seen as the goddess that fuels their creative endeavors and the engine behind their people's prosperity. Her artifact is Bashiel's Touch, a paintbrush said to be able to bring anything painted using the brush to life for an unknown amount of time. Emerald's realm is said to be one of mind-altering and abstract designs, where rivers flow backwards, trees grow sideways, and the ground shifts and morphs into impossible shapes, and never before seen colors radiate throughout. And it is these qualities that have led the Ostrons to call it un tual, or a dream's mosaic. The first thought, the Lady of Progress and the Boundary Breaker, Naril is the goddess of ingenuity, inquisitiveness, and risks. The third and final member of the Ostron Trinity, Naril is believed to be one who gave the ideas and ambition to Aladon and Imril's respective roles in creating life and the dimensions that contain it. The Ostrons often see Naril as the proverbial black sheep of the Trinity, as she represents the risk-takers and the pushing of norms and expectations, and it is these qualities that push the Ostron to seek the new and novel. Naril's artifact is the Mind's Eye, a circle that allows the wearer to hear the thoughts of those they focus upon. Of the Trinity, Naril is the only one whose realm remains unknown, though some suspect it is a primordial place that is ever shifting and where the new is always being chased after. And that concludes our second look at the divines of Iskara. In the next part we will conclude with the final selection of Isran. I know many would call what I'm about to say heresy, but despite the relics, the records, and artifacts that can be found across the lands of Iskara, I can't help but wonder if the gods we worship so deeply ever truly existed, at least in the physical sense such records allude to. The eternal flame, father of fire, and the dragon above all, Iraregum is the god of rage, dragons, and the chaotic or destructive nature of fire. In Sarkosh myth, it is said that Iraregum is but one half of a long-forgotten deity that was cleaved in two during the Silent Night. From the deity's corpse arose Iraregum and his counterpart Sar, and from the deity's blood arose the first of the Drorava, or great dragons, and the Sarkosh people. The legends continue to speak of Iraregum awaiting the great dragons to reach maturity before ordering them to bend the world to their fiery will. And for centuries Iskara was the world of dragons, though this age would end when Tarik Varo, the first descendant, would slay Uradax, the Black Dread, the greatest even among the Drorava. It was this defeat that was said to have shamed Iraregum, and he would not seek to guide the Drorava or the Sarkosh for centuries, leaving that responsibility solely to Sar. Iraregum's artifact is the Dragon Heart, a gem that fuses to the skin of one it deems worthy. Once fused, the heart is said to enhance the wearer's physical capabilities, making them immune to any and all forms of fire damage, and if the wearer is trained enough in magic, empowering fire-based spells. Though a noted side effect of the heart is that when it is actively used, it is said to induce a state in which it feels as if one is being burned from the inside out. The realm of Iraregum is said to be one of colossal volcanoes, jagged mountain ranges, and it is a place in which the magical elements thrash out with violence. Needless to say, it is not a realm for the weak. The Scaled Mother and the Embracing Flame, Sar is the goddess of rebirth and the life in which fire brings. Born from the corpse of a slain god, Sar is the counterpart to Iraregum. Where he represents the ruinous power of fire, Sar represents the cyclical nature of it, and a life that can arise from its ashes. After the defeat of Uradax, Sar guided the Sarkosh alone for quite a time, which has resulted in her being seen as the patron deity of the Sarkosh, whereas Iraregum is more associated with dragons. Sar's artifacts are the Blade of Ash and the Staff of Embers. The blade is a searing weapon that is said to render anything it cuts into ash, befitting its name. The staff is believed to be capable of using ash and cinders as a source of fuel to create a flame archaic, elemental creatures born of pure arcana. This enchantment is why many seek both the staff and blade, given their complementary effects, though a creative mind could still make use of the staff. Her realm is the Crucible, and it is said that most of the realm is an ash-ridden wasteland, but at its center lies a verdant oasis. It is believed that in Sarkosh myth, that upon death, true worshippers of Sar will enter the Crucible, and they can either endure the waste to find paradise, or lose any remaining sense of self, and wither away into oblivion. The Roaring Sky and the Lord of the Depths, Torvin is the god of storms, thunder and lightning, the deep, and tsunamis. The patron deity of the Torvithar, or Storm Elves, Torvin cared little for the meek elves that washed upon the shores of Nawale millennia ago. And it wasn't until the desperate elves mustered their remaining strength to slay a black scale worm, one of the largest and most ferocious marine creatures in all of Iskara. It was this feat that is said to have garnered Torvin's interest, and from that day on, Torvin would teach these elves the ways of the storm. His artifact is the Storm Tyrant, a trident that, when thrown, strikes with the speed and force of lightning before returning to its wielder. Torvin's realm is said to be a place consumed by raging tsunamis and everlasting storms. But deep in these divine waters, massive beasts stalk and consume those too weak to brave the realm. Dotting the plain are various islands that are spared from the turbulence and are described as idyllic paradises. The Earth Eternal and the Great Titan, Citharan is the god of stone and stasis. The only deity the Dundafar or Deep Elves worship, Citharan is a lesser-known deity among the various pantheons. From Dundafar stories and stone records, Citharan teaches perseverance and endurance, to mimic the very stone that supports the world so that you may never falter. His artifact is the Shaper's Hands, gauntlets that dramatically increase the wearer's strength, so much so that the simple impact can produce a minor earthquake. His realm is said to be a place of rock and stone, with magnificent gem spires that radiate vibrant energies. Master of the Tides, Rananui is the god of water, rain, rivers, and the seas. A prominent deity within the modern pantheon, Rananui in modern myth is said to have found the world of Iskara, but it was lifeless and devoid of purpose. From his sorrow Rananui cried for 14 days and 14 nights, and from his tears came the first waters which spawned the modern people. However, when the Moderns emerged, they did so on a world with no wind to carry their voice nor their songs. Rananui has two known artifacts, the Rain Charmer and the Whisperer of the Depths. The Charmer is a staff that is capable of manipulating water in a fashion similar to that of magic, which has begged the question as to why ice is an element that can be manipulated by arcana, whereas water is not. The Whisperer is a necklace that allows its wearer to breathe underwater unimpeded, which has made it a prized treasure among Moderns and treasure seekers alike. Rananui's realm is said to be one consumed by never-ending oceans, where massive coral structures mimic mortal architecture in cities, and where beautiful creatures glide through the calm waters. Conductor of winds and lady of the eternal skies, Garoa is the goddess of wind, air, and the sky. In modern myth, it is said that Garoa took an interest in the amphibious people when they emerged voiceless. It was then she decided to gift the world the wind song, which brought sound to the world and allowed the Moderns to create music and speak to one another. It is this reason that the Moderns and other faiths also associate language with Garoa. The artifacts associated with her are the Song's Breath and the Zephyr's Wrath. The Song's Breath is a pan flute that is said to charm those that listen to its melodies, and the Zephyr's Wrath is a spear made of pure galing winds that when thrown strikes the area before releasing a violent burst of cutting winds in a small area around it. The wrath then reforms in the wielder's hand. Her realm is said to be a place of calming winds that flow between cities, floating amidst the clouds. Imahura is the god of healing and medicines. Once the patron deity of the Bushiri people, Imahura became common in other pantheons following the events of the incursion. Since the incursion, the Bushiri have melded Imahura and Maeve together to represent healing through blood magic, a skill that few other cultures would ever consider exploring. Imahura's artifact is the God's Hand, a staff said to be capable of curing any ailment, illness, or affliction. This enchantment has made the staff a highly desirable item, but it has been lost for centuries, though some theories would suggest it was deliberately hidden away, but the reason remains unknown. It is rumored that Imahura's realm is a place of pure restorative energy and where afflictions are a foregone myth. And that concludes our look at the Isran or Divines of Iskara. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to like, subscribe, and comment any of your ideas, suggestions, or feedback down below. Take care and happy world building.